Before we move on, I just wanted to note that I've renamed the model of the character to Mulcore Advanced Rig Model, and I've saved a new copy of the scene. And I'm actually just going to export that model so I have a new one to work from. I guess at this point you could start to get into the topic of referencing if you wanted to start layering musculature and things onto the character. The way that referencing works in XSI is it uses the model structure and creates references to the exported models at the various locations. We exported our model into our project's models folder, so we can pull a group of related models from here and use them to iterate through changes made during production. Reference models use localized models. That is, in order to edit a reference model, you actually have to import the model which you are referencing. So you basically use the import model workflow, or dragging from the browser, to bring a model that's referenced into your scene as a local model. You work on the model, make the changes, and you re-export the model as overriding the original, or you increment it and make sure that that increment is picked up in the reference model. Local models are always black in XSI. Reference models, if you were to look under the model, empty reference model, they are white, and this one's offloaded right now. It's got looks like a little gingerbread man outline, a snowy gingerbread man. And if I double click on the reference model, I could call it, say, the Mulcore character. And right now it's offloaded, but if I was to set its first resolution to be, say, a constraints resolution, we'll call it like base constraints, I'll point that particular resolution to my advanced rig. So that's going to make up my first layer for my character. And the reason I would want to do this is because from here on in, the kind of effects I'm going to add in might take up a little bit more of the computer's processor, where an animator doesn't really need all of the extra controls until render time, or maybe they can periodically check for changes and work with a more efficient, lightweight model. So what I'm going to do is take this same model here, I'm going to export it a second time, and I'm just going to call it my Mulcore Rig model. We'll just call it Mulcore Rigged. So if I click inside of the reference model now, I can add in a second resolution, Res 2, and if I just expand the name a little bit here, there we go. I'll point Res 2 to the rigged model. So let me just verify my paths. So Res 1 is pointing to my advanced rig. So let's just do this. And Res 2 will point towards my basic rig. So I can already get the animators working. They have more than enough information to start working. I am going to have to make a few more changes to finalize, but at this point I can start to branch off with my edits. So from here on, I'll start this character as the Mulcore Advanced Rig model, and I'll be using just the constraints model the rigged model to represent the final changes I need to make just to pass it off to the animator. So in any event, I've got my offloaded model right here. I can actually just save my scene, and I will only be saving the reference to those models. So if I actually got rid of this Mulcore Advanced model right now. It's done its job. I've localized it and made changes to it, and I've offloaded it. Now my whole scene is represented by this reference model that is offloaded. If I save an offloaded scene, let's just call this one Malcore reference model. That's the name of our scene. If you look at the file size, it's 239K. So by offloading the character, we've freed up almost 3 megabytes of space to add other things. So if the character is not important, we offload it. If I bring in the basic rig, I'll bring in the basic rig here. Again, the basic and advanced are the same right now. And I save it again. So remember that the reference model is 239K, so I'll save it with the basic rig stored. If I go and open that scene file again, it increases slightly just to have to hold an image of the character. So the reference models are very lightweight and they're very flexible. And more importantly, we can make changes to the reference models themselves and store the results in what is known as a delta. And we'll be talking about delta in a moment as well, or in a future tutorial. So if I'm working with the scene to animate now, the animator can basically take this, and I'm going to work on the models from a local standpoint. So we'll be constantly referring back to this Malcore reference model right now for the next little while. So I'll make sure I resave. I'll close that down.